Greetings, students. Before we look at the last 300 years of Eurasia, we're going to go ahead in these next couple videos and just kind of sum up the state of the states of Asia itself. We'll be looking in this video at just the current places that the East Asian states are at, as well as touch on South Asia. And in the next video, we'll be looking at the Southwest Asian states, also known as the Middle East. Japan is probably the most westernized of all the East Asian nations, and up until recently it also was the richest. It's the third or fourth largest world economy depending on by which metric you're measuring it by. And Japan currently has a very close relationship with the United States, though for a bit more than a century Japan has had difficult relations with most of its neighbors, and that's one of the things we'll be looking at throughout this course. Since World War II, the Liberal Democratic Party has been the most powerful party in Japan almost continuously. They've been the party that runs the state most of the time, and despite their name, they are a rather conservative party. In 2012, the head of the party, Shinzo Abe, was elected Prime Minister of Japan, and Shinzo Abe turned Japan even further to the right than the Liberal Democratic Party had been pushing it for the last over half of a century. He is in many ways just kind of a standard conservative. He has worked to lower the corporate tax rates. He has been working to expand the Japanese military, which has been virtually non-existent since World War II. But as China is becoming more powerful and the United States has been pulling back a bit in the region, Japan has felt a greater need to defend itself. He's also worked to revamp his country's history curriculum for the primary and elementary grades. He wants to see his history books de-emphasize the atrocities that Japan committed in World War II. So when I say that he's been turning his country even more to the right, primarily he has been emphasizing more nationalism, and he's been working to free up the market and lower the burdens placed on corporations by the government. Just across the Sea of Japan, we have the two Koreas, the Democratic People's Republic of Korea, or also known simply as North Korea, and the Republic of Korea. The division of these two countries goes back to the end of World War II. At the end of the war, the country had been occupied by the Soviet Union in the north and by United States forces in the south, and ever since then, the two countries have been separated. Even though South Korea has been part of that Western sphere, it did not really receive democracy until 1987, which was the first year that South Korea had free and open elections. And just last year in 2017, in reaction to a series of scandals and the people of Korea coming out in droves to protest her presidency, President Park Geun-hye was impeached and removed. And it's also worth mentioning that the company Samsung makes up about 20% of the South Korean economy, making the South Korean economy quite dependent on a single company. North Korea has been ruled by the Kim family ever since 1948. And just to be clear, when we're talking about Korean names or Chinese names, the family name comes first. The current supreme leader of North Korea, Kim Jong-un, is the third member of the Kim family to rule over that state. He's been in power ever since 2011. He was probably around 28 years old. However, North Korea is a very closed regime. We don't know much about what happens within that state. Indeed, if you look at this map, North Korea is a state that's almost devoid of any significant electricity, even. This is a map of the lights over East Asia. And Kim Jong-un became the supreme leader just as North Korea was starting to become militarily much more powerful. In 2006, North Korea detonated its first nuclear device. In 2013, 2 years after Kim Jong-un came to power, it sent its first satellite into orbit, which of course means that it had more powerful rocket technology. And in 2017, just last year, it shot several missiles off the coast of Japan, making it clear that they were now capable of hitting Japan with a nuclear weapon. The People's Republic of China was first proclaimed in 1949, This is a single-party state, and that one party that dominates the People's Republic of China is a communist party. Now, China has a long history of being a world power, but in the 19th century, in the 1800s, China went from being one of the greatest powers in the world to really becoming a feeding ground for European powers. And it's not until the 1990s that the Chinese economy really started to make a comeback. In 2001, they joined an organization called the World Trade Organization, or the WTO, giving them expanded access to world markets. And in 2010, China became the world's second largest economy. The current president of China is Xi Jinping. Again, Xi is his family name. And Xi Jinping has been consolidating power ever since 2012. As a matter of fact, in 2017, the Communist Party of China added what they call Xi Jinping thought to their party's constitution. For those of you familiar with Mao Zedong, this essentially puts him on the same level as the founder of Communist China. We'll be talking more about Mao later on in the course. President Xi has a very specific vision for China. He wants China to become the next world leader, and he currently is on course to do so. Finally, we're not going to talk much about South Asia in this course, but you should know that the countries of Pakistan, India, and Bangladesh, all the way up until 1947, were all part of a unified colony of Britain. When Britain gave that area its independence, it divided up Pakistan and Bangladesh from India, making those countries, Pakistan and Bangladesh, specifically Muslim countries, so that India could be a Hindu country. We'll talk a little more about these two religions later on in the course. Even though these countries were set up to be homes to specific religious groups, there are still Hindus who live within Pakistan, and there are still plenty of Muslims who live in India. Currently, Hindu nationalism in India is on the rise, which has led to heightened tensions with Muslims, Christians, and Sikhs living within India. Again, we're not going to get deep into Indian history this semester, though we will come back to all those religious tensions and how they've unfolded in the common day. On to video 2, and Southwest Asia, or the Middle East.